This video is an introduction to Brandon Mitchell, a Canadian volunteer combat medic with the Hospitallers Medical Battalion of Ukraine. Prior to the war in Ukraine, Brandon had served in the Canadian and British armies. Following the Russian Federation's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, President Volodymyr Zelensky invited foreigners to enlist in the International Legion of the Territorial Defense of Ukraine. At the outbreak of war, Brandon was resident in Sweden. Brandon felt that his services would be more useful in humanitarian work, which led him to join the Hospitallers Medical Battalion of Ukraine. Since March 2022, Brandon has been carrying out frontline emergency medical treatment, assisting with civilian evacuations, delivering medical supplies and equipment, and transporting wounded soldiers. Brandon also delivers other emergency supplies to medics, such as much sought-after tourniquets, generators, and radios. These supplies are bought by Brandon from donations. In 2022, Brandon and his team were on a civilian evacuation mission in the Knauf district near Donbas. The area was already under Russian control or being fought over. This was a mission where speed was key to success. The team located the family to be evacuated, but found an extra 13 civilians needing evacuation. The evacuations were carried out in 2 stages. The first was successfully accomplished. During the second, carried out in a convoy of 2, Brandon's vehicle was blown up by a Russian mine and he suffered serious injuries. The Ukrainian army, at considerable risk to themselves, managed to extract Brandon from the minefield. His team successfully evacuated the remaining 13 civilians. Brandon spent a month in hospital recovering from a traumatic brain injury and hearing loss. The Instagram reel you can see here is from the civilian evacuation mission and shows Brandon's body cam footage of the moments leading up to and following the explosion. I'll leave a link to the Instagram reel in the description. Due to YouTube guidelines, I can't play you the Instagram reel as it shows an explosion and contains swearing. Wouldn't you swear if you had just been bombed out of your truck? Brandon is highly respected within the Hospitallers Medical Battalion, both as a combat medic and a fixer who gets vital supplies to where they are most needed. Through his Europe-wide network of contacts, Brandon sources supplies for many Ukrainian battalions at discounted prices. For example, Brandon buys night vision goggles at competitive prices for nighttime medical and civilian evacuations. Many combat evacuations on the front lines need to be at night due to evacuation ambulances regularly being targeted by enemy fire. This source of danger means that drivers cannot drive with lights on during evacuations. When wearing night vision goggles, drivers can see while driving at night, thus saving their lives, those of the wounded, and ambulances used during evacuations. Due to his respect as a fixer, Brandon has a lot of autonomy within his battalion. This respect allows him to have extended time away from the front lines as needed to source supplies. During spring and summer of 2023, Brandon temporarily left Ukraine on official leave for 3 tasks. The first task was to finalize his immigration status with the Swedish authorities. This task was only partially successful, and Brandon needs to return to Sweden this year to formalize his permanent Swedish residency, as he intends to make Sweden his home. The second task was to trek Sweden's longest trail, the Kungsleden. Brandon set up a fundraiser for his time on the trail to raise funds for Pvladko, a Swedish charity which raises funds for trucks bound for Ukrainian battalions. The aim was to raise enough money for an additional truck for Ukraine, and Brandon achieved this fundraising target. Brandon's third task was an international Ukrainian awareness raising mission. For this purpose, he travelled to Canada, the Netherlands, Sweden, the UK, and the USA, where he secured high-profile media appearances. In Canada, Brandon appeared at Toronto's St. Volodymyr Institute for a speaking engagement. In the UK, Brandon was twice interviewed at London's Times Radio studio, which later led to a third interview with Times Radio when he was back on the front lines of Ukraine. Other high-profile interviews were on the UK's Lindy Beige YouTube channel. While Brandon was in Sweden awaiting the outcome of his immigration status appeal, he appeared on Jake Bro's YouTube podcast. For those who don't know Jake Bro, his YouTube channel is one of the most high-profile channels dedicated to providing accurate and up-to-date information about the current struggle for Ukrainian independence. You will find links to these media appearances in the description below. Brandon is committed to doing everything it takes to ensure the Hospitaler's Medical Battalion continues to have the best medical and support equipment available on the market. As a self-funded volunteer, Brandon needs our help, and whatever donation you can spare will be gratefully received by him. You will find Brandon's PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee donation links in the description below. I'll also leave links to Brandon's YouTube channel, Instagram, and Facebook accounts. I have many posts about the war in Ukraine on the South Coast View website, and I'll leave a link in the description. If you found this video useful, I'll be grateful for a like. Please also consider subscribing to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.